It may not be based on a comic book, but it's one of my daughter's favorite superhero shows. On this episode of Moving Panels, we discuss the Thundermans. Welcome to Moving Panels, the podcast where we discuss movies and TV shows based on, inspired by, and adapted from the world of comic books. And I'll argue that this episode was inspired from the world of comic books. I'm your host, Laramy Wells, and joining me today is my daughter, Ruby. How are you, Ruby?
Good.
Now, this was all that you asked me to do the Thundermans, right?
Yes.
And why?
It's just because even though it's not a comic book, doesn't mean it doesn't have to be on your show.
That is true. Again, I do say it can be inspired by comics, and that's definitely what this one would fall under. So
that is true.
For those of you not familiar with the Thundermans was a television show that aired on Nickelodeon from October 14th, 2013 to May 25th, 2018. So the show ended 3 years ago, a little over 3 years ago.
Really?
Yep.
I knew it was an old show, but I didn't know it was 3 years ago.
Yeah, show ended 3 years ago. There were 103 episodes. I think it actually makes it only 98 episodes if you take the two-parter episodes that ran like back-to-back. But 103 individual episodes that ran across 4 seasons. It is actually the longest running Nickelodeon show since iCarly.
What?
Yeah, so iCarly was the longest running Nickelodeon show, and then this came in. Actually, I think they're only like an episode difference.
Huh.
I think iCarly did run a little longer. But the show was created by a guy named Jed Spingern, and I apologize if I'm mispronouncing that. Here's what's interesting. He created this show. He's been a writer of several kind of kids shows, especially with Nickelodeon. He did the show Big Time Rush that was on Nickelodeon. He did the show called Back at the Barnyard, which was a computer animated show. He did The Adventures of Jimmy Neutron, Boy Genius.
What?
Yeah. People who are closer to my age would know that he wouldn't know this, but know the cartoon. He also was a writer for Johnny Bravo and for the Pinky and the Brain television show.
That's cool.
Yeah. Now, not Animaniacs. Pinky and the Brain actually got their own show for a little while.
Yeah, you told me about that.
Yeah. And he was the main writer for that show.
Not today, but
Yes.
one time, a long time ago.
Yes. Now, the show came out during a transition that was happening on Nickelodeon. They went from the preteen shows like iCarly, Zoe 101, shows like that, and they started aiming more towards a younger audience, which are the shows you're more familiar with. The thing about the Thundermans, though, is it was actually able to kind of merge the two. It had the teenagers of Max and Phoebe, but it also had the younger kids of Nora and Billy.
Also, we have the youngest Thunderman, Chloe Thunderman.
Who came in later. She wasn't in the
Yes.
first couple of seasons. And I mean, it does kind of give a feel of those classic sitcoms. Obviously, there's a situation they have to deal with, just like iCarly did. But it mainly dealt with sibling rivalry. And I mean, everyone can relate to sibling rivalry. Brothers and sisters, sisters and sisters, brothers and brothers, all kind of arguing with each other.
Mostly twins.
Yes, and they are twins. So let's get into those characters. So we'll start off with Phoebe Thunderman, who I think is more the focus of the show, more so than even Max. I think.
Yeah, that's kind of true.
Yeah, so Phoebe Thunderman, who is actually given the name Thunder Girl.
Yeah,
as a hero.
True.
Played by Kira Kosarin.
Kira Costrin.
Costrin, let's say thank you. She kind of plays that, she's the perfect student. She always is at her best. She can do no wrong. She's the favorite sibling of the parents and all that.
Yeah. Like if something happens to Max, they don't care. Something happens to Phoebe, they really care.
So her twin brother is Max Thunderman, played by Jack Griffo, and he's the rebellious twin brother. It feels more like the attention is given to his sister, which in a lot of times it is. Now she is older. Do you know how much older?
20 seconds.
20 seconds. She's older by 20 seconds. Because they are twins, they both have the exact same superpowers. What are their superpowers?
Telekinesis, heat breath, and freeze breath.
That is correct. And what makes Max so much different than Phoebe?
He wants to be a supervillain.
That's right. He wants to be a supervillain. He even has his own lair below the family's house.
But it has a nightlight.
Okay. Next, we've got Nora Thunderman, played by Addison Reich. Again, may have pronounced that incorrectly. She's mischievous, always getting into trouble.
Yeah.
But yet she's also kind of, at least before we get Chloe.
Yeah.
She's kind of the baby girl. Yeah, she's the one.
She's the one who's always getting the attention.
Yeah. And what's her powers?
Heat. Laser eyes.
Laser eye or heat. In the first episode, she does cook a turkey with her eyes, so there is heat involved there. You know, I didn't ask you. What are your thoughts about Phoebe and Max?
Oh, my thoughts is that, like, Phoebe is, like, my favorite character. Like, I love all the funny parts that she does. They're like, hilarious, and I always laugh at them, even though I already know that's really funny. Max, not my favorite. Like, Max with Dr. Colosso.
We'll get into him in a little bit.
Okay. But, like, the whole villain thing, I don't really like villains that much. Unless they're, like, superheroes some kind of way. I kind of like Max, but I don't really like him that much.
What about Nora?
Oh, Nora. Nora is, like, the best friend to Billy. Well,
they're brother and sister.
Yeah, but, like, an episode that we're about to talk about, all he could do was play with Max as a bunny.
Okay. What do you think of Nora having her little bows? Like, that's kind of her look.
Oh,
she always has the bow.
Yeah, I think that's her way of being normal, you know? Yeah. Like, she can't survive without a bow. I found that out in one of the episodes. She gets really angry without a bow.
All right, next up, as Ruby mentioned just a minute ago, is their other younger brother, Billy Thunderman, who is played by Diego Velasquez. And like Ruby said, he kind of is Nora's sidekick. Like, he goes along with whatever Nora has planned and decides to do.
Very weird.
Yeah. They do kind of play him as not being too bright.
There's always, like, a non-smart one in shows to make it really funny.
And what's Billy's superpower?
Billy's superpower is super speed.
Yeah, he can run really fast. He's like the Flash. All right, their dad is Thunderman, Hank Thunderman. Don't you think it's kind of funny that they're trying to not reveal that they're superheroes, and yet they use his superhero name as their last name? That
is weird. Why do they do that?
I don't know. But Hank Thunderman is played by Chris Tallman. He kind of plays your typical sitcom dad, kind of bumbling, little clueless, but lovable. Like, what do you think about Hank?
Really funny. Like, one time in one episode, there was a meteor coming that was messing with their powers, and all he did was, like, eat ice cream.
And what are Thunderman's powers?
Super strength, and he can fly.
And he always flies. He breaks the ceiling every time he flies.
He never uses the same hole.
Yeah, wouldn't you think that they would create like a roof that opened or something
Yeah.
that he could fly through.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea.
It is actually revealed in an episode that as Thunderman, he has saved the world 346 times.
I've never noticed that.
And I didn't write down which episode they revealed that in. That was a little piece of trivia that I found doing my research.
Oh, cool.
All right, their mom, Barb Thunderman, who we learned that before she got married, her name was Barb McBooger.
I always laugh when they say that name.
And she also was a superhero called Electress. She is played by Rosa Balassi. And of course, her superhero name kind of gives it away. But what are her superpowers?
Electricity.
Yep, she can blast electricity out of her hands, and she has like electric powers. Anything you want to say about Barb, their mom?
Barb, like, she has like this cool mom vibe that like the kids say, like, don't ever say that again.
Yeah, there are a lot of times. In fact, one of my favorite episodes we'll talk about later, that she does one of those where she says things and they go, yeah, don't say that again.
Yeah, in Thunderman.
Uh-huh. All right.
She does a lot of those.
We've already mentioned the youngest, who didn't show up until later in the series, Thunder Baby, which is Chloe Thunderman, played by Maya LeClark. And what are her powers?
Teleportation.
That is correct. However, did you notice that when she was a baby, she had a different power?
Yes, she had bubble powers. Whenever somebody tickled her, she would, like, make bubbles out of her hands.
Yeah, they said she had hydrokinesis, like she could control water. Thoughts about Chloe?
Like Lily, very sassy.
Lily is Ruby's little sister.
Okay, so her teleportation makes the parents go crazy.
Yeah, because if they're wanting to get on to her, she can just go somewhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like she could go to a different planet.
Oh, does she?
No.
Oh, she doesn't? Okay.
No.
I haven't seen all the episodes, so.
She does go to one time Thunderman Hank actually flew Chloe all around the world, and they stopped at a country, and she teleported away.
Oh.
Back to the house.
All right, the other, I guess you would say, main character is Dr. Colosso.
Dr. Colosso.
Who kind of is the comic relief of the show. He's a super villain that Thunderman defeated, and then they turned him into a bunny, and Max kind of keeps him as a pet.
With the animalizer. Animalizer?
Sounds about right. But he does talk, so he kind of is
a
also
bunny.
Talking bunny, but he's also kind of a mentor to Max, since Max wants to be a supervillain himself. He is voiced by Dana Snyder. Now, people my age would be familiar that Dana Snyder was the voice of Master Shake on Aqua Teen Hunger Force. He also voiced characters in The Venture Brothers, Chowder, Adventure Time. But to give him a comic book connection, he is actually the voice of Plastic Man from Justice League Action, as well as voicing the Penguin on that same show. You remember the little Justice League Action? You and I have watched some of those together.
Oh,
they're like really short. They're little short DC superhero cartoons.
Oh yeah, like Ant-Man.
Yeah, but yeah, of course this is DC though. And recently on HBO Max, he was the voice of Ocean Master on the short series Aquaman King of Atlantis, which I gotta admit I have not watched yet. So I'm gonna have to get around to watching that. So what are your thoughts of Dr. Colosso?
Dr. Colosso, they don't really turn him human that much, but like in some episodes they turned him human.
Mm-hmm.
I say like he's like the best friend to Max. He could Max could almost barely live without Dr. Colosso. That happens in one of the movies. The day where Chloe is first born.
Oh, okay. Are there any of the other side characters you want to talk about?
Link.
Okay. What about Link?
That is Phoebe's boyfriend.
Okay.
Link also has superpowers.
Oh. What are his superpowers?
Well, he's like Elastigirl.
Oh, okay. So he can stretch.
Yeah.
All right. Like Mr. Fantastic from the Fantastic Four. Or Plastic Man, since we just talked about Plastic Man.
Oh, but his dad is Thunderman's worst enemy.
Uh-oh.
Mr. Evelyn, also known as Evil Man.
Okay. And are his powers the same? What are Evil Man's powers?
Evil Man's powers is the same as Thunderman's.
Oh, so he's also super strong and can fly.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Any other characters you want to talk about?
Maybe, you know the time where we watched that Geico commercial?
Okay.
Where,
and they showed that. Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
I forgot his name, though.
Okay. Does he play? Doesn't he play like their uncle or their cousin?
Their uncle.
Their uncle?
And he's like, they like him because he's nice, he's indestructible, and he's rich.
Yeah, I remember the rich part. I do remember seeing that episode. What about Cherry?
Oh yeah, Cherry. Another unsmart person in the show. Phoebe's best friend.
Yeah, and she actually learns that they're superheroes.
Yes, but she keeps it a secret.
Yeah.
What seems to be the problem, pal?
There's just so much pain in the world, so many issues. I don't think I can bear it.
Well, friendo, it sounds like you could use a dose of pop culture roulette.
Pop culture roulette? What's that? Some sort of pop culture themed podcast or something?
That's right, sonny boy. When hope seems far, dive into some PCR.
But I already get my entertainment news from Variety.
Huh, that's pretty good. If you're a chucklehead, PCR gives you news you need, condensed, unfiltered, and raw, from three nerds who know a little something about something.
Wow, okay, sign me up.
That's the spirit. Pop Culture Roulette. New episodes every Monday, available on all major podcast directories.
All right, so let's get into the moving panel section. Now, of course, there's no comic book connection here.
Nope.
Although I do think that the show kind of was inspired by, like I said, this is what my show's about, inspired by comic books. Yes. I do think it was inspired by things like the Fantastic Four, or even though they're not comic book related, the Incredibles.
Huh.
Wouldn't you think so?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're superheroes, they're a family. They're
Link
trying to just
kind of like Elastigirl.
Yeah, they're trying to just go about their everyday lives and just be normal. So there's your comic book connection. Incredibles, which would also be the Fantastic Four. So there you have it. All right, well, let's get into some of the episodes, and we'll start off by talking about the first episode. The first episode was titled Adventures in Super Sitting, and the show starts right off with the family having a meal, and we get to see each one of their powers. We talked about this earlier. Nora cooks the turkey with her laser eyes, her heat vision.
That's the first superpower in the whole entire show.
Yeah, and then Billy runs into the kitchen to grab, what does he grab? He grabs something.
Lemonade.
Oh yeah, he grabs lemonade. Then Phoebe and Max both use their telekinesis, and they use it to fight over the dessert.
Actually, okay, so, Phoebe lifts up the pan and says, "Hit it, Nora."
Mm-hmm.
And Nora does it with her laser vision. Billy runs to get some lemonade. Then Hank grabs Billy while he's still using his super speed.
It shows off his strength.
Max says, "And I'll get dessert." And Phoebe just also uses her telekinesis and says, That's for later.
Yeah. And then we see Mom use hers to kind of stop their fight. Isn't that what she does?
No.
No.
She
Does Mom use her powers in that
No,
opening
she doesn't
scene?
use that power.
Okay.
Oh, but also Phoebe also uses her powers a second time. She also uses her powers to get forks.
Oh, okay. But in the episode, the parents leave Max and Phoebe in charge of babysitting the two younger ones, even though the Max and Phoebe do not want to, because they think they should just get a babysitter, but the parents are worried that the two younger ones will show off their powers and reveal that they're superheroes. So they're stuck with the kids. Ultimately, Phoebe's best friend Cherry comes over.
First time Cherry's on the show.
Yeah, well, it's the first time all of them are on the show. It's the first episode.
Oh, of course. Except Link or Chloe.
And then it is actually Phoebe who accidentally reveals that they're superheroes and have superpowers, or at least just that she does.
Yeah, because she uses her telekinesis.
Yep. And Cherry sees Phoebe do it. Phoebe kind of freaks out and freezes Cherry.
Yeah. And then and Max says, "You froze your friend." I know I froze my friend.
And so then, typical sitcom chaos ensues. The parents end up coming back and they find out what has happened. And, Max had said he had a machine that would have erased her memories.
And Phoebe's like, "No, she's my best friend.
Yeah.
And if we do that, I'm going to have no best friends."
Yeah. But what they realize is that Cherry's not all that smart. And so they can just kind of make her believe that she didn't see what she thought she saw.
She saw special effects.
Yeah.
That only happen on TV. Those are camera magic.
And of course, she actually believes it. And so
she buys it.
Yeah. So for at least the first episode, their identities are hidden, even though, as we talked about later in the series, Cherry does discover their superpower
again.
secret. Yeah. I also want to talk about the final episode. So the final episode, which was a two-parter called The Thunder Games, when the twins, now at this point in the show, Max has decided he does want to be a hero.
That is true.
And so they become the Thunder Twins, and they are competing to join the Z-Force, which is like this.
At the end of the episode, it turns into the T-Force.
Yeah. And so we'll get into that. And so they compete against some other heroes. It comes down to being just the two of them, and they have to battle one of the heroes they battle, called the Gamer. We end up finding out is Dr. Colosso's son.
Yes, that is true.
And when he finds out that they have his dad as a bunny, he turns into a villain.
Yeah, and starts controlling the whole entire Thunder family.
Yeah, so he doesn't actually have superpowers. He has these little computer chips that he attaches to people, and then he can control them like they're in a video game.
Well, that's kind of like a superpower.
It's kind of. And so this, you mentioned this earlier, this is an episode where Dr. Colosso is turned back into a human.
Yes, because Gamer Dude wants to turn him back into human so they can hide out, and then Dr. Colosso confesses that he doesn't want to melt Max's brain.
Yeah.
And then Gamer Dude turns Colosso back into a bunny.
Yeah, so the plan was that the Gamer wanted to fry all of their brains and turn them into bunny brains, so that that would be their revenge. Dr. Colosso actually doesn't like that, especially when he's about to do it to Max. The Gamer then turns Dr. Colosso back into a bunny, and then it all ends with Gamer actually deciding to allow them to turn him into a bunny so that he and his dad can be together.
Yeah. Actually, this is the first episode where Max and Phoebe use a twin power.
Yeah, so the episode alludes to earlier that they need to use their twin power to join the Z-Force. When they can't figure out their twin power, the head of the Z-Force says that only one of them can go, and they have to fight each other. Which Phoebe then fakes an injury to allow Max to win. But then when Max finds out that his family has been kidnapped by the gamer, he actually quits the Z-Force to save them. And then he and Phoebe hold hands right before they're supposed to be zapped. And that is when their twin power, which seems to be their mom's power of electricity, takes hold, and it fries the chips, freeing them, and they're able to stop the gamer.
Plus, also, they can never shake hands again.
And then at the end, the president, what's the president's name on the show?
President Kickbutt.
President Kickbutt. He comes in, and he knows the Thundermans are superheroes. Or she. It's a she. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, it's a she. Again, I haven't watched as many episodes as you. She comes in, she puts the twins in charge of Z-Force.
The whole family.
And well, no, she just puts the twins in charge and then tells them they can put whoever they want on the team, and they put the whole family on the team. Yeah.
Even Chloe.
Yep.
They even put Chloe.
And then they say they're going to rename Z-Force T-Force, and the T stands for
Thundermans.
Thundermans.
Also twins.
That's it. All right, so that's first and last episode. Again, there are 103 episodes. We're obviously not going to talk about all of them.
I've watched all of the episodes over and over again.
I know you have. I hear that theme song coming out of your room a lot. But we're going to talk about a few of our favorite episodes. Ruby, I know you've got a couple. What's the first one you want to talk about?
Blue Detective.
Blue Detective. Now, I'll give you a little background here. This episode was the 7th episode of season 2. It aired November 8th of 2014, and it was actually part of a little special night on Nickelodeon called Who Done It Night.
I need to tell you something.
Okay.
So actually, their house number is actually the day that they first filmed this.
Oh, that's cool. Nice little trivia. All right.
That's really true.
So why do you like Blue Detective so much?
Well, Blue Detective is like super funny because Max turns blue from a Bolivian blue bean.
Yep, that it was hidden inside of his sandwich.
Yes, it was hidden in his sandwich by Dr. Colosso.
Spoiler. Yeah. Yeah, but it's a nice little whodunit where they interview the whole family, and there's kind of a reason each family member would do it, and each family member is actually found out to be involved at the same time that it happened. And
all he really figured out at the first part is that Max is a jerk.
Yeah. Anything else about Blue Detective?
Well,
Phoebe also gets turned blue.
Well, when Phoebe gets turned blue, I noticed that everybody is not laughing about Phoebe, because that's where I noticed that, like,
because doesn't their dad even say it was funny when it happened to Max, but not when it happens to Phoebe?
Yeah, he like, it was funny when it happened to Max, but not our Phoebe.
Because again, they love Phoebe.
Yes.
All right.
They don't like Max that much.
Okay. Now, what was your other favorite episode you mentioned to me?
Winter Thunderland.
Winter Thunderland, the Christmas episode. Very fitting around this time. All right. This episode was actually also in season 2. It was the 10th episode, which aired November 29th of 2014. And it's actually in this episode we found out Max's middle name is Octavius.
Yep.
There's another comic book connection. It's like Dr. Octopus. His name is Dr. Octavius. So there you go.
Wow.
All right, so what'd you like about Winter Thunderland?
It's like Christmas Carol, and I really like Christmas carols. When like all of the like spirits are Phoebe's, like
all three of the spirits are played by the actress that plays Phoebe.
Kira Costrin.
Uh-huh.
I like the past Phoebe because like her voice is so funny. Like
she plays it like a valley girl. It's like, oh my god.
Oh my gosh.
Yep. I'm Phoebe. Isn't that how she says it?
Yeah. I'm not Phoebe.
I'm Phoebe. Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm not Phoebe because she's not Phoebe.
I'm
she's
not
the ghost.
Phoebe.
Now, did you get the joke when she shows up? I think it's the Ghost of Christmas Present, and Max says, "Who the dickens are you?" You know why that's a joke?
Yes.
Yeah. Because Charles Dickens wrote A Christmas Carol. All right. What else do you like about the episode?
Well, on the past one that it's like one of the episodes where Max turns nice.
Yep. At the end, he decides to make a good Christmas for Nora, and he makes it snow and
spoiler.
Yeah. So yeah, he decides to what does he say to Phoebe, that it's okay to be nice one day out of the year?
Like, you don't know, Phoebe.
Yeah. Of course, she has no idea what he's talking about. So, any other episodes? I just want to ask you again, even though those were the only two you told me as we were getting ready to record. Are there any other episodes you want to talk about?
Well, there is an episode where, it's the day that, Chloe is first born.
Okay.
It's called The Thundermans and a Baby.
Okay. Kind of playing off 3 men and a baby. All right.
Okay, but it's like at first it's where Chloe has her bubble powers.
Uh-huh.
And Max and Dr. Colosso get trapped by all the other supervillains.
Ooh.
King Crab, Lady Web. I don't remember the snake's name.
Okay.
But it was like a snake. But I remember King Crab and Lady Web.
All right.
And then like they put Max and Dr. Colosso under a tank of hermit crabs.
Ooh.
And like King Crab puts a turkey in there and like tries to struggle to get it out, and it comes out with all the meat off of it.
So they're evil hermit crabs.
Yeah, and he makes a joke and says things are about to get a little snappy.
Uh-huh.
And he loves bubble wrap because he has like a claw. He has a claw for a hand, but his other hand is just a hand. And he likes bubble wrap, so do you know how they're gonna fight off King Crab?
By distracting him with bubble wrap.
No! Chloe!
Oh, because of the bubbles. Because she makes the bubbles. I get it. All right. Is that all you wanted to say?
Yeah, that's really all. But like Phoebe comes in and starts doing all this special moves and flips and flips, and it was such a cool entrance. And she just turns with her fist up and says, "We're the bad guys."
Yeah.
And then saw Colosso as a human and said, "You turn Colosso human? You are so busted when we're getting home." But Cherry comes in with Chloe. By the way, Cherry doesn't have any superpowers, is super scared when she sees King Crab.
Mm-hmm.
she hides the baby and herself, and when and Dr. Colosso said that he really likes popping bubble wrap with that claw. And she says, bubble wrap? Where am I supposed to get? Oh! And she forces Cherry to tickle Chloe, which makes bubbles and distracts King Crab.
And that's how they win.
Not exactly.
Okay.
Okay, so somehow Thunderman finds out. I don't know how. It's really hard to find out, but he came there, and Dr. Colosso is turned into a bunny and can't get out. So Thunderman doesn't do the password, just busts the wall open and comes in and gets back Dr. Colosso and calls Metroburg and says, I've got some trash to clean up near the back broccoli factory. No, not actual trash. I was just slam talking. Yeah, that's literally what he says.
Yeah. Well, now I've already told you my favorite episode.
Yes. Thundervan.
Yeah, my favorite episode is called Thundervan, which is also from season 2. We seem to like episodes in season 2, so season 2 must be a good season.
Yes.
Thundervan is actually the first episode of season 2. It was released on September 13th, 2014. And in this episode, Hank and Barb think that it might be time for Phoebe,
Yes.
to learn about the Thundervan and to drive the Thundervan. And it doesn't go too well. And
No, they actually don't let her drive it.
Oh, I thought it started off with it not going too well.
Actually, they don't let her drive it at first. They do a little play date.
Yeah.
And Hank teaches her how to get by quick, how to do all the controls, really.
Yeah. And so the Hank and Barb go to bed, and then Max decides to break into the Thundervan.
The password is hamburger.
Yep. Only to find out that Phoebe is already inside the van, because she's trying to learn more about it.
Not really. Actually, she got into it with the manual to learn how to drive it.
To learn more about it.
So she can go to the movies with her friends.
And so they decide to take it out for a little joyride, as teenagers do in sitcoms like this. They only thing is they later discover that both Nora and Billy had also hidden away inside of the Thundervan.
Yeah, they find that out when Phoebe goes to eat her turkey and says, "What happened to my leg?" And they hear a big burp and Phoebe says, "I think that burp comes with a bow."
Yeah. So you got all 4 kids inside the Thundervan. The Thundervan then starts doing things that they don't know how to control and stop and all.
Billy accidentally hit a button.
Yes. Then Hank finds out that the Thundervan's been stolen. He then has it return itself to the driveway.
But it actually looks like they're in a volcano.
Well, so he can't see who's inside of it. But so he decides he's going to mess with the thieves because he thinks it's just some thieves inside of the van. And so he makes them think the van is going different places, like the inside of a volcano underwater at one point.
Yeah, and then it says 10 minutes of oxygen.
Yeah. And then when they finally are able to see inside, they see that it's the kids, and they let them out. And again, it's just a fun episode.
And Nora thinks she's left her bow in there while it went into rocket mode.
Yep.
And so Thunderman goes.
He goes flies up. Yeah.
And Nora noticed it was just on the floor.
Yeah. Yeah. He sends the Thundervan away, and and then he goes to fly after it, and you got the little tagline at the end, oh, never mind, my bow's here, but Thunderman has already flown away. So there's a few of our favorite episodes. So let's get into our final decisions. Bag it, stack it, or trade it. So Ruby, I think you're going to be a bag it on this one, are you?
Close. Yes.
Okay.
I would be a bag.
You are a bag it because you really love this show.
I'm a stack it and bag it at the same time.
Okay.
Like, I stopped watching it for a little while, and then I started watching it again.
Yeah.
Because when I noticed it's on Netflix, I'm like, oh my gosh, I gotta watch this again.
Yeah, but the fact that you want to watch it again and again, that is kind of the bag it. You know, you make it kind of one of your things, kind of your go-tos, right?
Well,
when you don't know anything else to watch, you just put on the Thundermans.
Yeah, like, if I don't... One time when I didn't know much about the Thundermans and I knew a lot about Bizaardvark, like, when I finished Bizaardvark, I'm like, what am I gonna watch? What am I gonna watch? What am I gonna watch? I guess I'm just gonna watch Bizaardvark again.
Yeah. It's got to be a stack it for me though, because it's not really a superhero show. They don't actually do an awful lot of superhero stuff. It's more of they do your regular family sitcom stuff. It's just they happen to have superpowers. I also am not a fan of the fact that there are very little consequences for some of the things that Max and Phoebe and Nora and Billy do. Like, they get in trouble, but yet they are all good to do something else right after.
Well, actually, in one episode, Nora and Billy are grounded, but Phoebe secretly takes... Well, Max first takes them to open a safe of some other villain. I don't remember the name of, but they try to open the safe, and Phoebe comes and uses her telekinesis to bring them back up the slide. She accidentally takes Dr. Colosso instead of Billy, but then she gets Billy, and takes them to the park to see her crush, Dylan. Dylan has a baby brother, and consequences, baby Lulu, Nora's doll, and Rocky, Dylan's baby brother, have the same exact strollers. You know where this is going.
I do, and I remember that episode, but I know you could talk about this episode for a lot longer, but I think this has been long enough for the show, don't you?
Yep.
Okay. All right, but thank you, Ruby, for being with me and talking about something that you really love as a superhero show, the Thundermans. So thank you very much.
Hey.
All right, and thank you, everybody, for joining us for Moving Panels. I'm Laramy Wells. This has been Ruby Wells, and I'll see you on the other side of the page.
Bye.
Do you love movies of a certain age? Do you miss the days of VHS tapes and VCRs and video rental stores? Does the thought of another 80s movie being remade seem inconceivable? If you want to go back to school, back to the future, or even back to the beach, then the 80s Flick Flashback Podcast is for you. I'm Tim Williams, the creator and host, and on each episode, I'm joined by a guest co-host as we revisit a different 80s flick to discuss our first-time watch memories, iconic scenes, and even learn some behind-the-scenes stories along the way. New episodes drop every other Friday on your favorite podcasting platform. So make like a tree, get out of here, and go listen to an episode of the 80s Flick Flashback Podcast.